Hey, good evening. It's Saturday, February 22nd. You see echo in the background there. Come to the next section we're going to talk about in terms of self-talk. That's about your health. Self-talk and your health. This is important for us to get a handle on. As you've already gotten the idea of what we've been discussing, your self-talk, that's your interaction with your life experiences. And it's going on in your mind. And as we've been saying, we think it's isolated, but it's not. Our self-talk is really comes down to following the ways of the flesh or following the voice of the Spirit of God through His Word. I can listen to the voice of the flesh, which is what Galatians 5 is telling us about, this battle going on, that the spirit and the flesh are at war with one another. We're literally having a war within. Or I can listen to the truth of God. And when it comes down to health, our self-talk is huge. Because the way we think about how we're doing and all of that, if it's riddled with fear and anxiety about what's going to happen, that has a negative impact. I don't need to quote any statistics. You can read all kinds of data about that from various sources. The way we think about how we're doing impacts how we're doing, whether we have hope or not. I was blessed to spend a fair amount of time at the Brain Center at Duke University. And they were all about trying to instill a positive attitude in people, because it makes a difference in how you heal. Self-talk is huge for our health. So that's the topic for tonight. We're going to talk about our self-talk, what's going on in that mind, our mind, which we think is private, but it's not, because God is part of that. So we want to engage self-talk that's going to bring about healing rather than having the opposite effect. I want to start off by saying that nothing is random. These things are not accidents. God is not on coffee break. He's aware of all the things that are happening. He even brings them about for our good. That's something we have to combat. Google searches, blogs, articles, discussions, friends, whatnot, they can be helpful, but they can also produce a lot of fear and anxiety. And we need not to let those things dominate our self-talk. God is not on coffee break. I'm going to give you a few things that were of comfort to me and Ruth. Just in case you don't know or haven't mentioned it, Ruth was diagnosed with glioblastoma, the most lethal form of brain cancer, in 2010. And she lived 3.5 years in God's grace and mercy. And we had a chance just to work through so many things. And these things I want to talk about were immense comfort to her and to me. And then 2 years later, I was diagnosed with cancer of the lower tongue and lymph node and here. And God chose to heal me through the cancer treatments. But He was faithful to me just as He was faithful to Ruth. So these passages are very precious to us. They mean a lot. So that's the spirit I want to give them to you. First of all, I just want to underscore it's not random. When God was speaking to Moses and Moses was saying, hey, Lord, I'm not up to this. I can't do this job of going to speak to Israel. I can't even speak well. And God said to Moses, He said, look, who made man's mouth? Who makes it mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, Yahweh, the Lord? God's in control of those things. If you read Job chapters 1 and 2, You see, God is in control of these things. What we settled on, what really brought us comfort, is the truth in Psalm 73, the nearness of God is my good. But nightly, you talk about encouraging good self-talk. Daily, nightly. When Ruth was going through her cancer she longed for, and we read them every day. Psalm 23, Psalm 46, Psalm 121, Psalm 139. Psalm 23, Psalm 46, Psalm 121, Psalm 139. Those influenced our self-talk. It shaped Ruth's self-talk. Psalm 73 kind of backs these things up. Verses 25 to 28 of Psalm 73 says this: Who am I in heaven but you? And besides you, I desire nothing on earth. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the rock of my heart and my portion forever. For behold, those who are far from you will perish. You will destroy everyone who is not faithful to you. But as for me, the nearness of God is my good. I have set the Lord as my refuge, that I may recount all of your works. See, that recounting of the works of God, that's the praise we've been talking about. That informs your self-talk. That produces a sense of health and well-being. That sets us up for passages like Romans 8:28, where we know that those who love God, all things work together for good, for those called according to his purpose. Nothing is random. God hasn't abandoned us. Perhaps Ruth's favorite passage during her time was this one in Psalm 139, verses 16 and 17. Your eyes have seen my unshaped substance, and in your book all of them were written, the days that were formed for me, when yet there was not one of them. How precious are your thoughts to me, O God! How vast is the sum of them. Ruth knew that God's timing was perfect. And while we didn't know the exact time, the doctors gave her 4 to 7 months to live. She lived 3.5 years. But she never wavered, never doubted, never said, why me? And she knew that God had the right time for her, just as this passage says in Psalm 139. The nearness of God was her good. As I said, those Psalms, Psalm 23, Psalm 46, Psalm 129, and 139. Psalm 121 and Psalm 139. They shaped her self-talk. That was the voice of the Spirit through his word talking to her. And it overwhelmed and overshadowed the talk of the flesh and the doubts and the worries and the fears. Ruth's self-talk was healing to her and beyond healing to me. Self-talk and your health. God has what we need, and it's precious, and it's comforting, and it gives hope. And that's the thought for this night. You have a good Lord's Day, and Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday, where we'll keep talking about the importance of self-talk. Thanks so much for being here. You have a great, great day. Good night. Thank you so much for watching. It is such a huge encouragement.